You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Hey everyone, this is Kristen Powers of Pets Rock at Pet Life Radio. Today our show interview is an unusual one because we're interviewing the sidekick Keith of Max A. Pooch, who is a recycled dog who recycles litter. Hello sidekick Keith, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Kristen, and how are you doing today?
Quite well, thanks. So for our listeners, we must first know who Max A. Pooch is and what makes him different from other dogs.
Well, Max A. Pooch is a rescue dog, and like lots of rescue dogs, if the shelter hadn't come along, he would have ended up probably being put down in a rubbish heap. And what makes him different from other dogs is he's my dog, because just like millions and millions of other dogs, the best dog in the world is your own dog. And I think all your listeners would agree with me, and I'm sure you would too.
Yes, I have 2 dogs of my own, and they're very much loved and treated like humans in my house.
That's right. On my website, I actually have a paragraph where I call him Dr. Max A. Pooch, and he's a CIC, and that stands for Canine in Charge.
Oh, yeah. Yep, they do rule the household.
They certainly do.
Cool. So what is Max A. Pooch's job, and how did this job begin?
Max, he picks up cans and bottles when we go for our walk and brings them back to me. And then I put them in a recycling receptacle or bring them home and put them out for the recycler. And the way this started is that Max is a lab, and like lots of labs, he loves to chase tennis balls. And I saw some of our neighbors who had older labs, and they had arthritis, and they couldn't chase tennis balls anymore. And I said, maybe Max needs a lifetime sport, just like humans have golf or tennis as lifetime sports. And so I looked around, I said, there's always litter wherever you go. And so that's how we started. And originally I was going to start him with all litter, then I quickly realized bad idea, because there's really a lot of terrible stuff people leave behind. But cans and bottles are pretty safe, and I can keep an eye on him.
Cool. So how long did it take to train Max to retrieve this specified litter that is like the recyclables and not like know how to differentiate everything?
Well, that's an amazing thing. You asked me how Max was different from other dogs. He's one of the smartest dogs I've come across. And he already knew how to fetch a ball. And I took him out. There's a big dog park not far from where we live with fenced-in training areas. And I took him out there, and it took him only a day. And to my amazement, it was like in no time, he would differentiate cans and bottles from other litter. And now his eyes are better than mine sometimes. And if he sees something in a field, and I think it's a paper, can or bottle, and he thinks it's paper, he won't even go out after it. 99% of the time, he's right. So he's become very selective. And I think anybody who is going to do this, that's what you'd want to do, because you can't have your dog picking up everything.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be really good for those dogs that have like the amazing like mental capability. We just got a new German Shepherd, and he's already today, just like 20 minutes before this interview, we had to put him outside for a second while we got our other dog up, and he learned how to open the door within 5 minutes. So that might be something we need to train him to do, to occupy that super smart brain of his.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times that's what happens. The dogs are much more intelligent than their humans think they are, and they don't exercise them, and they get into lots of mischief.
Yes, definitely. Has there been like one extremely strange or unusual piece of trash or recyclables that Max has retrieved?
Yeah, come to think of it, the other day we were out, and there was some high brush along a stream, and he went in there, and I heard this clankle kind of noise, and he lifted his head and looked at me, and then he put his head back down behind the grass. And I was wondering what it was, and finally he came out, and he was carrying a big empty vodka bottle. it looked so funny because it really was. It was multi-liter bottle that somebody had. And what he was doing, he was pulling it out of a plastic bag full of cans and other bottles.
Oh.
I wish I would have had a camera then, because he really did look strange with that big bottle, and he was able to carry it. It surprised me.
Wow, that is interesting. So my other question, which kind of maybe pertains more to you, Keith, is why recycling? What made you think of this as a job for Max, and has it always been something that you've done?
Yeah, it's been something that I've certainly become more sensitive about and aware of over the years. And, I looked at Max, and he's recycled. If we think about it, a dog that an animal shelter saves from an animal control facility is being recycled, because otherwise that animal would end up in the landfill along with cans and bottles and the other things that humans just discard without thinking about it. And so to me, it seemed like a natural. Why not have the recycled dog recycle? And people would look at me strangely and say, huh? But it's amazing, because the other day Max was asked to come out and demonstrate his capabilities for a fundraising event held by Orphans of the Storm. And essentially I talk a little bit about the connection between throwing away litter and throwing away dogs, and then Max does his thing. And it's just amazing, because people will see him do that and they'll just go, wow. And, getting loud vocal audience response is pretty difficult usually. And
right.
Max is so focused, and, whether you can hide him, and and you just say to yourself, this amazing animal could have ended up with the 4 million other animals that were put down the year we adopted them. It's a tragedy. It really is.
Right. So Max A. Pooch definitely seems to be taking steps to protect our planet. I know that I am also a very green, eco-friendly person at heart. It's kind of the way I grew up. But a lot of people always say to me, like, well, I can't make a difference, or, like, my impact isn't enough to change anything. What would you say to those people, like, with your experience with Max and the steps he's taken to help protect and clean up our planet?
Well, I tell those people, if they see a piece of litter, to bend over, because, we all have the big idea we're going to do the big thing and save everyone. Well, the reality is the big steps are taken by tiny, tiny little steps, and those tiny little steps may be as something as, if we're all aware of litter, and that's one thing I say about Max, he does what most people won't. He picks up other people's litter. And so if we even did something as simple as that, of course, not litter ourselves. And if we saw a piece of litter on the ground, to bend over and pick it up, because that little incremental step could be saving the ocean. Because, even here in Illinois, way far away from the ocean, a bottle could be blown or fall into a creek, which could eventually go into the Mississippi River and into the Gulf of Mexico and out into the Atlantic. And so it's those tiny little steps, and that's what that I say about Max. And Max proves that eliminating or reducing litter is so easy a dog can do it. He doesn't like me to say that, but I do anyway.
Well, I think that's definitely an important philosophy. I went to a camp where the director, it was 700 people on not a very large campus, and he would always say, if you ever see a piece of trash, you're not doing the right thing if you step over it, and that even if it's not yours, to pick it up. And that campus is always the cleanest campus I've ever seen, despite the fact that it's so cramped. And I think, like, your point exactly is that, like, people, even though you can't visualize where that trash may end up, it really can have a worldly impact from not just leaving it there.
Exactly. And it's so surprising, because we have a 40-gallon trash can sitting by our other cans, and it's filled now with cans and bottles that Max has picked up. And we walk the same route every day. So that means something he picks up on Tuesday has been dropped since we were there Monday. And, it just amazes me, because it's an illusion, I think, particularly in the suburbs or areas where park districts or the city picks up trash, we don't realize that it's being picked up. And if if it was left there, we'd suddenly realize just how sloppy people are. And can I say something to the athletes out there, maybe any coaches who might be listening?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, we find a lot of water bottles around baseball diamonds and soccer fields. And a lot of times, they're kids or the athletes, they get finished and got to get home and do their homework and whatnot. But take a look around, and I think the coaches really ought to be setting the example and teaching their kids during practice to make sure that they're picking up their water bottles. And there's a lot of other things left too that kids forget. But pick up those bottles, because they can end up not only going into the ocean, but maybe the next day some kid's running and happens to step on one and slips and turns their ankle. And that could have certainly been a preventable accident.
Definitely. And I think even on top of that, like the average family, I can't remember where I got the statistic, but I think it was from maybe AmericaRecyclesWeek.org. The average family spends about $1,400 a year on bottled water. So even if investing $15 in a reusable water bottle for kids, it's refillable, the water you get is free, and it doesn't create that waste that causes such problem on the field. Exactly.
Plus all the cost in terms of resources and making all those bottles we throw away. Even if they are recycled, it still takes energy to recycle something and remake it. So it would be better to reduce usage also.
Right, exactly. And you can get super cool designs now. They make in like all types. I know each one of my family has a different water bottle because we all have our preferences, but you can really make them unique now and to your own liking. Much more flexible than those plastic water bottles.
Right, exactly. And it's just amazing how, that accumulates, because we'll only pick up maybe 2, 3, 4 bottles. Occasionally, some days are worse, but pretty soon we have a 40-gallon trash can full of them. And then I take a photograph of it with Max sitting next to it.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, but this is Petz Rock with Max A. Pooch's sidekick, Keith, telling us all about his awesome work. We'll be back in a minute.
Don't go anywhere, because the best is yet to come. Stick around.
It's DesignerPetSweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit DesignerPetSweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Large or small, we fit them all. DesignerPetSweaters.com.
Pet Life Radio, the #1 pet radio network on the planet, joins forces with iHeartRadio to put the power of your pets in your pocket.
Awesome.
Download the iHeartRadio app and rock Pet Life Radio on your phone, on your tablet, on your Xbox, in your car. Pet talk, pet tunes, and fun pet times. Pet Life Radio and iHeartRadio. Positively possum.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Hey guys, this is Skylar Samuels. You're listening to Petz Rock on Pet Life Radio with Kristen Powers.
Back to the party. Let's go.
With the hottest party in town.
Hey everyone, this is Kristen Powers with Petz Rock at Pet Life Radio. Today we're continuing our awesome interview with Max A. Pooch's sidekick, Keith. Keith, how's everything going?
It's going fantastic. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, Kristen, and to talk a little bit about Max A. Pooch and what he's doing, because I think it's just a lot of fun and we're doing a lot of good.
Yes, I totally agree. So we spent our first half kind of talking about how Max A. Pooch is the recycled dog who recycles litter and all of that great work that he does for our planet. But when I was researching you all on your website, I noticed that you had some information about animal shelters versus puppy mills, and I know that's a very excitable cause for people, so I don't want to put any words in your mouth or Max A. Pooch's mind as he tells you what to say to me, but I was wondering what your views are on that topic.
Well, I'm pretty adamant. I was volunteer communications director for an organization by the name of the Puppy Mill Project, and they're a local organization here in Illinois, and their primary advocacy is to picket pet stores that sell puppies and show the relationship between those pet stores and puppy mills. And if there's a lot of ways you can mistreat animals, but I think when you see how intelligent a dog is and then the conditions they're raised in at puppy mills, particularly the breeding stock, the moms in particular, it's criminal. I mean, you're talking about the moms being bred 2 or 3 times a year until they can't have decent-sized litters, and then they're put down, and then sometimes they just shoot them in the head. And that's the reward for their life. And they may have, given 20, 30, 40, 50 puppies that eventually sell at $1,000 or more each at the pet stores, and that's their reward. So I would say to any of your listeners, if they're looking to get a puppy from a pet store, to be very careful. I won't say all the pet stores get their puppies from the puppy mills, but I would ask questions. And I would also go to animal shelters because surprisingly you can find some fantastic animals, even if you're looking for a certain breed at an animal shelter.
Right, definitely. And I know that my stepmom's actually with petfinder.com, and she's always telling me all these statistics. She says that 25% of all shelter animals are purebreds, because I know a lot of people say, well, I need a purebred that will fit my lifestyle and I don't want a mutt. And while I love mutts and think they're amazing, I understand people would like a specific type of dog, but even going on Pet Finder and searching for the right one, or being an educated consumer and going to your shelter rather than a pet store, you usually will find the perfect dog for you, even if you may not think it going into it.
Exactly, and that's the key, to look and not buy on impulse, which is another thing that happens so frequently when people buy at a pet store, because they'll be walking by, see that doggy in the window. Maybe a young child will say, oh, let's get a doggy, and mom and dad will be weak for the moment, and pretty soon there's a dog that no one has prepared to take into the house.
Right.
And it's really now another area too, of course, that you're probably aware of, Kristen, are breed rescue organizations.
Yes.
And so if you're really settled on getting a dog, you're right. Shelters up to 25% of them have purebreds. Now you have to go look, because a purebred won't last as long. Actually, Max is a purebred, and he had his papers, of all things, because his owners had his actual owners had turned him in to an animal control facility, thinking that he would automatically find a home. And they didn't even realize that if nobody took him out of there, he would have been put down within 2 weeks. And fortunately for Max, Orphans of the Storm came along and rescued him. Orphans is a local animal shelter here in Illinois. And so again, that's an example of that littering, not thinking about the consequences mentality, just leaving a problem for someone else. And it's really the same kind of thinking, whether it's a piece of litter or an unwanted dog. It's like, that's not my problem anymore, and just discard it. And as long as people think that way, I think it's going to be a big challenge for both the environment and for dogs.
Right, definitely. So on top of that, what do you and Max think are the best ways for dog owners and animal lovers in general to get involved with these causes that we've talked about? What steps especially do you think do you have any tips for those who may be thinking about training their dogs to do some of the work that Max does?
Again, it's the old adage is that first he's a dog, he or she is a dog, and then it's the breed. So if I were sitting there with a Schnauzer, I might think twice before I said I want the Schnauzer to retrieve bottles. I would look at what kind of dog it is and then try to fit the training around the dog. Like Border Collies are incredibly intelligent, and they're great at agility because of the challenge. And so it's things like that. and not to get impatient. Because other times people say, well, I have a retriever and he doesn't retrieve like Max does. Well, they may be wired to, but you have to spend some time, no matter what the wiring in your dog is getting them to participate, because they're dogs, and just like us, they're not mind readers. They have to, they're trying to understand us. And actually, I think they do a better job understanding us than we do them.
Right. So my next question is, what is Max's next goal or endeavor? Are we going to be seeing a new generation of Pooches cleaning up parks everywhere soon, or what do you think Max has in store for the future?
Well, a couple of things. One thing, he's entered in this contest that if he wins, he'll get his image on a billboard in Times Square.
Wow.
And it's called the It's About Me contest. And right now he's in the upper 5%. And if anyone wants to vote for him, because I think it'd be fantastic, because imagine the publicity that would generate if a dog instead of a human ended up with his face on a billboard in Times Square.
Right.
I mean, it would generate all kinds of publicity that could be used to put Max's message out there about the littering and discarding of dogs and the mindset so many of us have. And so if anybody's interested in voting for him, they can just go to his website, which is www.maxapooch, that's POOCH.com. And there's a link on the homepage of the website right next to a picture of Max on a billboard in Times Square. And all they have to do is hit the link, and I'll take them right to the site where they can vote. And you can vote once a day. So we're really hoping he's going to do that. And other things, some people have talked to me, and they said, why don't you think about having field trials for sporting dogs, but instead of using live pheasants and birds, use bottles and cans. And you could still be using the same skills that these dogs have been bred to have, but you wouldn't be traumatizing the birds like they do in the field trials they have now. And on top of it, that would probably generate a lot of publicity, because the local media would always pick up that these dogs are out finding cans and bottles rather than birds. So that's one thing that a surprising number of people have talked to me about, and we're really considering it because it'd be a good way. And then, of course, Max makes appearances. He and I we were at Orphans of the Storm for a fundraiser where he demonstrated his skills, and I talked a little bit about some of the things we discussed here. And he was featured by Lake County, which is the county we live in. It's the county just north of Chicago, as part of their green initiative. And that was great because, again, we got to demonstrate that reducing litter is so easy, even a dog can do it. And that's, I think, a pretty basic message because it's so easy to do.
Right. Definitely. Well, I'll have to make sure to vote for you right after this.
Yeah, please do, Kristen, because I just think it'd be really funny if Mr. Max, his mug ended up there. And
yeah.
I'm sure he'd be picked up by some talk program out of New York City.
I think so, too.
It just would be incredible.
Yeah, I can see people's faces up there every day, but if you saw something like a dog, you might take a second glance.
Sure, you'd wonder, what is he doing up there? And that gives you the reason for the messaging. So he has a pretty busy itinerary, and he likes it because, like your dogs, he's intelligent, and he likes to be kept challenged and active. And he's looking at me right now saying, there you are on the telephone. Because around 7 o'clock we start going for a walk. And so 6:30 he starts pacing around and looking at me.
Oh, okay.
In fact, he's right here right now.
Well, we won't keep Max waiting too long. I have one more question for you guys, and
sure.
Max can feel free to send you his message as he listens, but what has been the biggest or most impactful lesson that you or Max or both have learned from Max's work, and what message do you want to pass on to our listeners?
Well, I think the most impactful lesson is that we have a lot to learn from animals. I'm a cancer survivor, and when I went back to my job, 2 days later, it was terminated. And so after going through the cancer and everything and then having a job terminated, I was pretty low. And Max was here, and he was happy. He really started showing me that there's other things to life than the 8 to 4 schedule. And I think your listeners, as they get wrapped up in activities and everything else, is to keep a little time just to do something you really, really like that's private and special. And if you have a pet, it's probably a little time with that pet, because the rewards are just incredible, what you get back from that.
Right. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any last words or comments you want to say?
Just, again, vote once a day for Max. His website is www.maxipooch.com. And if anybody has any questions about him, there's a contact form on there, and we'd be glad to answer them. So
cool. Well, we'll make sure to vote for you, and we'll put your link on the show description on the Petz Rock page on Pet Life Radio as well.
Fantastic. It's been really great talking with you, and Max is telling me that he's really glad that I told your audience the things I did, because he thinks that message doesn't get across enough.
Oh, I'm glad Max feels that way. Well, thank you. This is Max A. Pooch's sidekick, Keith Sanderson, and we have been talking about Max A. Pooch's work as the recycle dog who recycles litter. Thank you for your time, Keith.
Thank you for having us on your program, Kristen, and have a good day.
Thank you. So everyone, this is Kristen Powers of Petz Rock at Pet Life Radio. Have a wonderful day.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.